The protests last summer were loud and bold, and they gave us a path toward racial justice. But conservative backlash is putting obstacles in the way, like what you just saw, the banning of teaching about racism, and even restricting the right to protest. Janae Nelson writes in The Guardian that more than 80 state bills limiting the right to protest have been introduced. Florida has a new anti-riot law that increases penalties for public disorder. And Oklahoma has a new law that grants immunity to drivers who unintentionally kill or injure protesters. Janae Nelson joins us now. She is the Associate Director of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Janae, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So lay out for us what's happening with these anti-protest laws that seem to be popping up as a backlash to the Black Lives Matter movement.
So we're seeing a proliferation of laws across the country that are specifically designed to counter protests. They strike at the heart of our Constitution, the heart of the First Amendment, and our right to assemble, to express ourselves, to speak. This is a direct assault on our Constitution and, most importantly, on people, on individuals, on human life. We're seeing laws that make it okay to drive into a crowd of protesters, that provide immunization for people who engage in such brutal violence. The idea that you would see these laws come after the death of Heather Heyer, after we've seen the damage and devastation that can be caused, there's no other way to explain it than an attempt to silence the majority of Americans who stood up last summer and continued throughout the year to protest against racial injustice and police violence. And instead of responding, instead of trying to seek solutions to this growing groundswell of support for a reimagination of public safety, instead, too many elected officials in too many states have decided to silence that majority. And that is extremely dangerous and can only lead to more authoritarian measures. We should all be deeply concerned about these laws.
Right. And again, the Constitution is coming up because I made a point earlier. It was really Paul Butler or Mark Vesey, the congressman from Texas, in our conversation. He was talking about, the fact that, these police killings, they are in stark contradiction to the due process clause that is in the Constitution. Conservatives should be proponents of police reform if they are, abiding by the original Constitution, which is what they say they are for. So 1 year after George Floyd's death, I think a lot of people are taking stock of what's changed in the last year and what has not changed. Are you personally hopeful or are you pessimistic about the chances for substantive racial justice?
I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic, cautiously so, but I'm optimistic. I can't imagine that this moment will pass without there being some real change as a result. Too many people have put their lives on the line, have showed up and showed out to allow this moment to pass. I think the outrage has been unleashed in a way that we haven't seen before around issues of policing. As we continue to see more death, as we continue to see this problem go unabated, even a year after George Floyd's murder, I can't imagine that anyone is going to lose resolve on this issue. The question is whether elected officials and politicians have the courage to respond. And we've seen recent efforts of elected officials trying to undermine the work that resulted from these powerful protests. And we have looked at the George Floyd and Policing Act as one key potential result of the protests, a key advancement. It's a first step to begin to rein in unconstitutional policing. And even that is, there's an attempt to water it down. And we are pushing back against that quite fiercely. It is essential that there be heightened accountability for law enforcement. It's essential that we be able to track law enforcement officers who engaged in misconduct. And it's essential that we look at the funding that goes to law enforcement and that funds the killing of Black lives.
Janae Nelson, thank you so much for being here. It was great to have you on this important night. Please stay safe. Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.